Thank you so much for coming. So we're going to take a small journey through some user-generated content experiences that focus on cooperative work. So let's say mass player experiences. A little about myself. I'm currently based in Amsterdam. I'm originally from Israel. My background is in interactive installation and performances. We will see some of that as well. And yeah, as we have not much time, and you guys are probably tired from this long day, so let's get going. Whoops. So this is a very interesting quote from Aristotle, which I really like. I think it sort of sums up the idea of this talk. And yeah, it's basically about the fact that we want, or I want in my projects, to give the participants the feeling as though they are part of something that is bigger than themselves. And I hope that the common thing between the projects I show you sort of demonstrates this. So I think my love affair with this kind of project started from this game, which I'm sure you all played, or I hope, which is, of course, Lego, which in my opinion is the mother of all user-generated content games. Okay, maybe it's a bit of a big statement, but in my opinion, it's one of the best ever games that continues to do that in so many ways. And of course, it's something that inspired a lot of other games, but we will talk about that a bit more later. Another game which I think is very important to mention is this game. Who played this game here? Yes? No? Wow, not that many. Who doesn't know anything about this? Okay, so, right, anybody. So, yeah, basically the idea is that you create the whole experiences together in your imagination, which I still think is an extraordinary thing. And you go through a whole story, and you've got one guy called the Dungeon Master who sort of improvises on the spot what to do with the information the players give him. So he feeds the players a story, but they can pretty much choose to do what they want. And I think it's a beautiful example of this. And of course, it came with these very cool cubes, which I think in my, yeah, I think that was the big selling point for me when I just saw these cubes the first time. I thought, wow, this is a cool stuff. Anyway, so this was also the box it came in, which is pretty nice. I think, sadly, these days, we don't focus as much as packaging, and we don't have many packaged games these days, as they are all downloaded. But let's go with two video games. So video games, the first game I'll show you is this one. And did anybody play this by any chance? So as far as I know, this is the first game ever that had user-generated content experience. And also interesting about this game is that EA thought of marketing games as records. And you can see this very interesting cover for that. So this is what it came in. And I think it's pretty cool. But this talk is not about packaging. It's about user-generated content. But I think, yeah. Anyway, so this game, it had this thing, which was the first ever level editor that I know of. And it was quite revolutionary, as it was a drag-and-drop system. So yeah, I think that's quite extraordinary. And yeah, I don't know what more to say, but yeah, it's something I think is worth. And this was the original packaging, by the way. So that's why maybe going to EA with this game was a good idea. But if you notice as well, revert a bit, Bill Budge was very famous, and his game name was even bigger than the actual name of the game. But anyway. So, and another thing Bill Budge did was work on this thing, which was kind of the first Photoshop for mouse. So, yeah, that's a little reference. OK, up next. Regarding little balls that jump around the space, this is a project from Ada Karina Smigla-Bobinski. And she did this installation, which I'll just show you because it speaks for itself. So yeah, basically it's a big ball of helium to jump around the space, and people play together, and they make beautiful drawings everywhere. And as you see, people start to even plan their strategy of what they're going to do. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful example of improvisation on the spot and co-creation. And yes. So, cool. Next. Who knows this game? No one. Really? One person? OK. So this is ZZT. There were some theories about the name, why it's called something. It's about zoo, zero, forgot the T. Anyway, but basically the whole idea behind the name was that he would be listed on the last game in any game registry. It's a game from Tim Sweeney, and he's the father of Epic Games now. You know Epic Games, right? Yes, OK. Anyway, this game was as well revolutionary, not for its graphics, which for its time were pretty bad, because 1991 we had some much better graphics, but it had this, oops, sorry, this level editing system. It was a whole language, and people could actually make their own games, which was pretty new, I think, at the time. And you could even copy the game and give it to your friend, and he could play it, and he could even edit that game and give it back to you. And up until 2014, there was still a very active forum, and people uploaded their games. And you can go to z2.org and still probably download some stuff you can get. And to be honest, it was some pretty creative stuff. And people even did some nice art for their cover of the game using the same pixel ASCII graphics. And I think, yeah, that laid the groundworks for a lot of games later on that have the whole idea of you playing other people's games, like Roblox. And yeah, and they also make now, you know which game, right? So anyway, up next, this is another very classic game. And I'm not sure it was the first online attempt at multiplayer, but it was, yeah, a very ambitious one of trying to play SimCity and multiplayer. It didn't succeed too well because the setup was horrendous, but these days they actually made mods, so if you want to do that, you can actually do that. And as far as I know, it's the only SimCity that you can still play in multiplayer. And surprisingly, The Sims did not have a multiplayer version up until this year. So there's now a Sims mod called Pancake 1. And if you like The Sims and want to play it together with many people, then you can do that now, which is pretty cool. And this thing about the SimCity, which I think was very interesting as well, is that they had this whole idea that you could also destroy your city if you want. And I think a lot of people, after they played a while, just enjoyed a lot more the whole destruction part. And there's a new mod that came out for SimCity 2000 with this new type of disaster. You can read it? Yeah, cool. And I also made a project that's about deconstructing stuff. It's called From Reed to Beat, From Sweat to Sweet. It's basically a giant dessert. It's a Brazilian dessert called Maria Mole. And I'll show you what people do. They... So basically, we give them gloves, and they, over time, just eat the cake slowly, slowly, slowly. And they play around with it a bit too. And in the beginning, everybody's very careful, and they take small pieces, and they, as over the time goes, and this thing gets more and more and more demolished, by the end of the night, people were just taking whole chunks of it and throwing it at each other, and it was pretty horrible. But also at the end of the night, people are mostly drunk, so I think it could be an effect on that. I'm very proud of this project because in the course of 6 hours, I think more than 1,000 people ate from the cake, and yeah, it was still some left at the end of that. Okay, next. So this is another very cool cooperative project called 21 Swings. It's from a Canadian group called Daily Tous les Jours. I hope I said that correct. And this project is still ongoing. They still do it every year. They started in 2011. And the basic idea, well, the video kind of explains it, but to sum it up, when you swing, it makes sound. But if you want to make melodies, you have to swing together or in different patterns to create nice melodies. And yeah, I'll just show you a bit because it's cool. And let's do that. So, fast forward a bit.
Okay, guys, so you may just have
And at night, it also has lights on the bottom, which makes it visually very beautiful as well. And I think it's a very interesting project.
We ended up spending about an hour and a half here. I think it's amazing, and it's a really, really cool experience to be able to make the music with your entire body.
Okay. So, next up, we have this interesting collaboration. So as you, yeah, Minecraft, I think, is very much inspired by Lego. As another game which is very popular these days, which is Roblox. And I find Lego very smart in the way they embrace games that could be as their competitors, but they kind of embrace them. And they did the same with Mindstorms. Who knows Mindstorms? Okay, so what happens in Mindstorms is that basically you can program the Lego, and they release these little blocks which are programmable. And then what happened is that the community started to hack the boxes and make much more sophisticated programs. And a lot of companies would have probably said, no, 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 you're not allowed to do that. And but Lego just probably did the smart move there and actually took those hackers and basically made them Lego workers and their ambassadors. And they basically still do that. And a nice little thing I can show you that Lego and Minecraft did together is this. So basically, this is one of the biggest Minecraft Lego builds. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And this gets bigger and bigger. And I think it's great they do this kind of stuff. As for interesting games that make other games, there's a Roblox make of Fortnite, which is titled, at last, a good version of Fortnite and Roblox. I can show you 5 seconds of it. Oh, sorry, that's just a Minecraft thing. Yeah, it's also very nice that people actually make full-fledged stop-motion animations, which is pretty high-end. Yeah, I just think the production in this is crazy. I think that, I don't know how they did this whole stop-motion thing, but if they actually did frame by frame and moving the camera is crazy. But as I said, Roblox Fortnite is this. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's, yeah, okay. It actually says, oh my God, but we didn't hear it, which was kind of funny. We want to see, we can do that again. No sound. All right.
Spray meta. Oh my God.
Yeah, okay. Next up, we have this project, which is one of my favorite collaborative projects that was ever done on the internet. Do you know this one? Yes. And who participated in this thing? Anybody? Yay. You see yourself here? Now, what I find very interesting about this project is that in one way, it's a very big cooperation. On the other hand, it was a very big competition. And there were even some historical references here. You can see, for example, Germany taking over France. You saw that? Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then there were some big wars there. But I wonder why they didn't let it go on for longer. Well, I probably do know why. But yeah, I think it's a very beautiful project, which inspired me in some ways to do a project I'll show you soon. As for other very cool projects that have to do with monumental size and many players participating in its building, who knows the world's biggest Pac-Man? Anybody know this one? You can play it online. So you just basically go and you choose. Basically, it's huge. So you see this little navigation thing here. I could, if the internet was maybe better. Anyway, yeah, it's enormous. And basically, you can go from one level to another level just by exiting through the doors there. We can play one. You want to play? Yay. So, basically, yeah, and you can go here, and you can basically go and go and go and go. And people made some very weird stuff. There's some levels where you can just basically not die and just get lots of points and extra lives. And yeah, cool. Well, let's not play Pac-Man during your talk. Okay. Yeah. Let's stop that, otherwise it'll make weird sounds. Okay, so yeah, you can go to worldsbiggestpacman.com and have lots of fun. And I don't know if anybody actually managed to finish this entire thing. I don't think it's possible, because you just keep on adding levels every day, so yeah. Okay, slowly, we arrived to my project, which is Mish Mash, and we're trying to make the world's biggest surrealistic drawing. And the basic mechanism is that you draw something, and then we cut the size of your drawing, and we send it to other players to continue. It's inspired by this game on the left called Exquisite Corpse in English and Cadavre Exquisite in French. It was invented by surrealist artists like 100 years ago, like in the 1920s. And you basically play it by folding a paper into 3 or 4 parts. And the first player drew a head, and the neckline, he kind of continued over the lines, and then folded, and then the next person, body and legs. And there's lots of beautiful examples of this. So yeah, we just thought, let's make a digital version. I don't think I have time to tell you how the whole thing came about. But if you want to play, we can actually play it now. If I have a tablet, and we can pass it around and try to make a quick one. Yeah, sure. Okay. So during questions, you can make a drawing. Okay, I'll give you a pen. So just pass this around. When you're done, click the airplane, say send it out there. And I'll show you some stuff that people made. So this is the first one we made. It was actually done on a drive to Germany with 5 people. And we didn't have colors back then. It was pretty buggy, but we managed to do this one. And then we have a few more. This was done in Nordic Game Conference. And this was done in a maze. And anybody see something inappropriate? No? Yes? So yeah, that's something you have to worry about when you make user-generated content. It's probably one of our biggest problems. So it's a very fun thing to do, but yeah, especially Apple will probably want us to find a way to flag this out. And we're working on that. So basically what will happen is that we'll have a flagging system, and if somebody reports something as offensive, we'll have to clean it up, and hopefully we have a big enough community, and then we assign some people as super users, which could then either fix the drawing or erase it or do something interesting with it. Yeah, was done in big indie fest, Austria. Anybody know Chinese? I don't know what that text says. So, okay, no luck. This was done here. And apparently Fortnite was very big in references here. So people like Fortnite. And that's my talk, I think. And as for, well, a little other reference for other games that have problem with user-generated content. I can show a last one. It's very silly. It's this one from... It's the Second Life. Yeah. Anyway, cool. So I'll put this again on full screen. How do I do that? Play slideshow. All right. So, any questions or remarks or no? Yes. Yeah? Or he comes to you, I guess. I guess you can go to him.
There was another guy.
First of all, thank you for your talk.
You're welcome.
I'm really a big fan of creative and bringing out the players into the game, like the participation. And what I'm asking is, why, maybe like a personal question, why do you believe in this idea? What's the drive? What's making you see this kind of concept in the future, that creators and players combining into one big, maybe sometimes inappropriate thing?
There's a few reasons why I do this. One is probably because it's always surprising what people will make if you give them a creative platform. And I'm always curious to see what will happen. 2 is it's probably just because I really like doing stuff with groups, because I like what it brings out in me or what it brings out in people when they have to constantly react on other people's actions. And I think that's the best way to teach creativity as well, not to everybody. I don't know if you can teach creativity, but I believe you can, and through these kind of exercises. So it can be through many types of improvisation exercises by, okay, this is what you have to deal with, and it constantly changes, and really interesting results come because it's on the fly. It's not like you have too much time to process it. Well, some games you do, but... and I think maybe I'm becoming very poetic here, but yeah, I think in our current global society, and we have this internet thing, and we could do so much more in groups, and I really want to encourage that as well in games. I mean, there's a lot of multiplayer games, but most of them focus on eliminating each other, which is not always bad, because that can be very creative as well, and you've got groups working together, and but I just think it's something that I find fascinating, and I just like to see what happens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question. Oh.
Hello. Thanks for a good talk. I have this one question that I don't know if you're really an art buff, but if you are, has this idea of other people creating something within the medium of games, has this in any way affected how you view, any other sort of creative endeavor and any other art piece?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you mostly about my art. My path in art began from very traditional theater and to move towards interactive stuff like this. And I always loved games myself, and it took me a while to get those two things integrated in some way. It wasn't a very conscious decision, like, okay, I want to make games now. It was more like more and more being interested in what playful interactions can bring about. And I don't know exactly how to answer your question, to be honest, but I think games, you could say that every game is a user-generated content experience to some aspect, because you as a player are making this interaction is what makes the game in itself. It's the only medium, well, I should be dangerous with that statement. It's one of a very interesting medium because it's this constant creation of how can I say, of moves. It's like, okay, in chess, you don't know which move you're going to make. Well, you can plan ahead, but then he makes another move and you have to change. Or most games have that. And even platformers, okay, you want to solve that level and you want to do it faster and faster and faster, and you're going to each time try to make your tactic better. But in art, yeah, it's, I don't know, I'm blabbering now. So I don't know if that answers your question anyway, but yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Mikkel, here in the front.
Thanks. I want you to keep on blabbering, basically, with my question, because I noticed that you called Lego a game as well, which I would usually think of as a toy, and you show all these art projects that are playing with some of the same ideas as the games that you showed. Is it in any way meaningful for you to use these categories? What do you think of them?
Well, let me reverse the question. Do we consider Lego a game or a toy? And I think most people will say, no, it's a toy. But I do think we play Lego, and we do games and Lego. We invent our own game inside the Lego. We can have, well, I had many wars in Lego with my friends. We built fortresses, each in our house, and we brought the whole fortress, and we had a whole war, and then we had a fight of whose Legos is whose. No, it's my piece. It's got my teeth marks on it, Yeah. So I think these two categories between game and toy in the industry are separated, but I do think they overlap constantly in art as well. Like there was one example I didn't show, lack of time, is it's called the Dream Agency in the States, and they basically collect dreams and then they make VR experiences from the dream. But it's like a 360 movie, but it's very playful in a way because every VR experience is playful because you can do stuff that you cannot do in the normal film, right? You can look anywhere you want. So I think, yes, for the definition of the industry, we sadly have to distinguish between these two things. But in my opinion, there's a lot of overlap. And yeah, I don't necessarily distinguish so much between the two. Yes?
Anybody else?
Nope. Yes?
No?
No?
No, doesn't look like it.
All right.
Thank you, Doron.
You're very welcome. Thank you.